Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Hello, my name is Firda Maulana. I am here as the moderator for the red group, which consists of Nurul, Regina, and Zain. Here we will discuss computer hardware. Who does the term hardware? Hardware is a device that is closely related to computer hardware, of course, familiar to those of you who are already in the component world. But for those who still rarely wrestle with the words of computer, of course, they still have minimal knowledge of the hardware itself. For those of you who already have a computer or laptop, of course, it will be easier for to know what is meant by hardware or hardware itself. However, it is not only the meaning that need to be known. There is a lot of other information you can do it about hardware excessively. As well as type of hardware function to examples of the hardware itself. For that, first consider what a complete understanding of computer hardware or hardware will be explained by Nurul.
What is hardware? Hardware, or better known as hardware, are all types of components on a computer where the physical parts can be seen with the naked eye or can be felt directly. So it can be said that hardware is the physical equipment of a computer that is useful for processing input, processing, and output. Some of them are RAM, CPU, mouse, keyboard, scanner, monitor, printer, and many more. In addition, hardware is currently viewed as an output form of any computer operating system process. However, to support the work of these devices, certain software or software is still needed. That way, every desired command can operate properly. From the understanding of the hardware above, it can also be seen some of the functions of the device itself. The main functions in hardware cover many things. For example, in terms of displaying and receiving process input, providing output, supporting computer work, and processing information or data inside and outside the computer. From the general function of the hardware above, here is a complete explanation. Processing data or information. This means that several types of hardware have a function to process or process data or information. To process data and run process on a computer system, examples of process devices are CPU, RAM, VGA, and so on. Receive output, namely hardware that has a special function in receiving input from users. That way, the hardware will process it into new information. The data received from the input can be transferred to the output. Provide output. If it has been processed, the hardware will be output back to the user. All output is visible to the user, which is displayed on a dedicated hardware device. This mechanism influences each other between the input-output storing information and data in this case. All the output produced by your computer can be stored on the secondary storage device of the computer. This storage can be done not only on devices installed inside the computer, but also devices that are installed externally. Those are some of the functions of computer hardware.
Of the several functions above, of course, you will understand more about hardware. Apart from that, there are also several types of hardware that you need to know about as below. The first, types of hardware and example. In general, the types of hardware can be distinguished based on their respective function. Below are some hardware devices that are differentiated according to their function or use. Input device, one type of hardware that is useful on entering information and data, whether it is in the form of video, text, image, audio, etc. to the computer. Here are some examples of this hardware. Mouse is one type of hardware that functions to move the cursor on the computer screen. In addition, by using a mouse, user will also find it easier to select whatever menu they want on the computer. Keyboard. This type of hardware refers to assist user in entering number, symbol, and letter into the computer. Scanner. Useful for converting documents from hard copy to soft copy. This type of hardware is generally very important to use. The reason is there are still many people who need it to file important documents with signature and stamps. The second, output device, is a type of hardware that is useful in displaying information and printing the result of user data input. The data or information come from hardware input that has faced the hardware process. For example, such as monitors, projector to printer. Here, here's the explanation. Monitor is a component that is needed by every company is doing various jobs. Generally, the work is related to document and data. Printer, one type of hardware that you use in printing all kinds of document needs that you want. LCD projector, useful hard to make it easier for you today to device video and games to LCD screen from a computer. This means when using an LCD projector, you can display a presentation more clearly.
Device process. Types of process device that can be useful in processing data and running processor on a computer system. Device process such as CPU, RAM, VGA, and many more. CPU is a device that is useful in controlling all work process on a computer, whether it's from instruction management to producing to desired output. VGA, a device that functions to process graphic data so the latter result can be displayed on a computer monitor screen. RAM is a type of hardware can determine the speed of access on a computer. Device for storing. Storage device, or better known as storage device, is a type of hardware that function to store computer data. For example, as shown below, hard disk is a device that functions to store information and data in a computer with a large unknown capacity. That device has a shape like
a portable flash disk is a data storage device from a computer that has a USB connector. This connector will make it easier from this device to connect to a computer or other media in use. You can use this flash disk itself to transfer data from one computer to another. Optical optical disk is a data optical disk is a data storage medium that can be read or written by a laser beam. General that optical disk here is a form a CD, compact disc, or DVD digital versatile disc enhancement. Additional tools are useful in helping the computer perform user commands. This device is general reference to as a device that is useful for connecting computer device to the internet network.
Okay. From a complete explanation of the meaning of this hardware, well, of course, you will understand more about this device, the existence of this computer hardware itself. Of course, fairly useful to facilitate human work and daily activities, especially for certain office or company activities that require hardware to do what is needed quickly, easily, and efficiently. However, like other objects around us, you also need to take your care of all this device. The reason is one of the hardware component cannot hold properly, then every data information processing process with certainty and run properly and according to what we want. That's all we can explain. So if there are mistakes in pronouncing and other things. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.